Welcome to our CorkExpress 2015 webinar series. This is part 5 about footnotes and endnotes. My name is Matthias Günther and I'm going to lead you through this webinar. Footnotes and endnotes is a feature that was introduced with CorkExpress 2015, so I'm going to show you that in this version, of course. Before we start, some housekeeping as always. We are showing you this webinar in YouTube. So if you have a comment throughout this webinar, please leave your comment in the comments field where it says share your thought. And typically we'll answer questions within one business day, probably quicker today on the first day. If you have longer questions, please go to our forums at forums.quark.com or join our new Facebook group CorkExpress. So let's start. What is the difference between a footnote or an endnote? Well, as the term says, footnote references can be inserted everywhere in the text box itself or in an anchor text box and then appear in a foot, so at the end of the main text box, or if you have a multi-columned text box at the end of the column. Endnotes, however, appear at the end of the text story. So imagine you have a text story, so a linked text that spans over 20 pages, then you will see endnotes at the end of the 20th page, whereas a footnote would always appear at the end of the page where it's referenced. Let's have a quick look. So of course, CorkExpress 2015 here, I'm going to create a new document and I'm going to create 20 pages with an automatic text box. Say OK, and now you can see my automatic text box. I'm going to go to utilities and I'm going to insert placeholder text, so I have a lot of text. So how do I insert a footnote? It's quite easy. I just put my text cursor somewhere, I right click with my mouse and then I'll say footnote, insert footnote. And as you expect, let's get rid of guides here. You can see, zoom in a bit, you can see little one reference here. Text cursor immediately jumps down here and I can insert something like C, HTTP and so on. You get the idea, right? And the footnote is always at the foot of my reference. So if I put in some text, let's say for example I do next box or next column character, then you can see this jumped. So this is now at the end of my column again. That's why it's called footnote, right? An endnote though, you can also insert an endnote here, footnote entered, endnote, insert endnote, will jump to page 21. And I can put something in here and I can say, well, see Facebook.com or whatever. So it's at the end of my text story, so you can see all of my 20 pages are linked here. So when I do a command select all, then I select all of my text and the endnote will always be at the end of the whole text. Well, and that can be kind of hard to find where the reference is. So for that in CorkExpress, I can just go to footnote, endnote, I can say return to reference, and immediately I jump to my page, my first page in this case, where my reference was. So same thing here, if I put another endnote in here, so footnote, endnote, I say insert endnote, I will jump to the end of my text and I can see, this is maybe C forms quark.com. So you can see that immediately my reference is put at the end because it's an endnote, and then I can return to my reference by just a right mouse click. There's also shortcut keys. If you're looking for the shortcut keys, please go to our website where you put in quark.com. You go to support, documentation, CorkExpress 2015, and then just look for the keyboard command guide for Mac or for Windows, where you will find the appropriate shortcut keys to jump between reference and footnote. However, it might be easier if you just go to the new preference section in CorelExpress 2015 where you can search for the custom shortcut keys. That's also one way to do that. However, that wasn't really what I wanted to show you right now. So what I wanted to show you is the difference between a footnote and an endnote. So just to complete this, if I put into my placeholder text another, it doesn't have to be at the end of the paragraph, right? I can put this maybe at the end of this word here. So I'm going to say insert footnote. So what you see is instead of jumping at the end of the text story, since it's a footnote, it will now jump to the bottom of the column, the end of the column, because it's a 3-column text box that I created here, and I can just go see also whatever. All right, and same thing applies here. So if I go to footnote, endnote, return to reference, I can also easily find back where this reference came from. Okay, so that's the difference between footnotes and endnotes. How do I create footnotes or endnotes? We've already seen the manual way. So right mouse click and then just put this in. There's also an automatic way. So for that, let's just create a new document, same formatting. So I have 20 pages here with a 3-column setup. Well, I could have probably done less, but I just wanted to do exactly the same. I'm going to import Command E a Word document that I have prepared that has footnotes. So before I do that, let's just have a look how this looks like. Let's switch to Microsoft Word, and you can see here, here's my text, formatting, and I do have some footnotes here. They're just the URLs that I have referenced here as footnotes. Let's go here and import that. Import, and you can see at the first pages here that, let's turn off guides. Here's my text. It's not too long, it's not 20 pages. However, at the end of each column, I have automatically my footnotes in here. Right? So footnotes are imported from Microsoft Word, and same thing here. If I want to see where they reference to, I just go to my footnotes and endnotes, and I go to return to reference, and then you can see where it actually references here. Okay, so that's how footnotes or endnotes are created. So I think you've seen the difference between footnotes and endnotes. So how do I create footnotes and endnotes? We've seen that. They can be manually created in CorelExpress or automatically when you import a Microsoft Word file, and it has to be a docx file, so the newer or the recent format of Microsoft Word. So how do I format these now? You've seen there was a little separator line, and there was also some numbering for the footnote reference. Let's have a look at how we create or change these. So for that I go back to CorelExpress. Let's make this a bit larger, and let's just go to the first page here. The first page has, the first column of the first page has a footnote style in here. So of course I can just select this and then maybe change this. I don't like Metro, I want Courier New, and then I can change this, right? It's just formatting, text formatting of CorelExpress. And if I prefer to have a style sheet, I can just call this my footnote style sheet, paragraph style sheet, apply it, and then go to the next one and also apply it here. I have the little plus sign, so all the typical tricks apply, right? Option key or contextual menu, and you can define what you want to see here. So that's one way of doing it, manually formatting it. Let's come to the automatic way later. Also, what you can see is there's a separator line, and maybe I don't like the separator line. It's too thick and it's too long, and it doesn't have enough space here above. So how do I change this? So for that I go into Edit, Footnote Style, and I'm going to create my own footnote separator style. So for that I don't want a solid, I want maybe a dotted line, I maybe want 0.5%, 0.5 points. Maybe black is fine, but maybe I'll go for 70% black, no opacity. And maybe from the right, I want 10 millimeters. Let's go for a bit more, 40 millimeters. And then I want the space before not automatically to be calculated. I want at least, let's say, 12 points, right? So created my own style, save. So this is now in the system, just like a style sheet that I created without applying it. And now I go into style for that box that I have selected, and I apply the footnote separator style like this. And you can see that they've all changed now. So I have this larger space above this line. I have this gray dotted line for that text box, but I don't have it here for the second one, right? See the difference here? So if I make this a bit smaller, you can maybe still see that this one has the smaller line and this one has the longer line. It applies per text box. Since I have a 3-column text box here, it applies to all columns. If I wanted them to be different per column, I would have to work with separate text boxes. So that's how I changed this line style. And of course, if I want to have this everywhere, then I would either apply this to the master page, or I would go again to, for each box, to go to the style menu and then change this here. Okay, so that's how I formatted my line, and I did some things about the footnote styles here, how they are formatted. But I only formatted 2 of them. So let's now format all of them. For that, I go to Window. I'm going to get my footnote style, my palette here, and I'm creating my own style. So this is my footnote style. It's a footnote, and I want this footnote paragraph style to be in here. And let's not change the rest. Let's just leave the rest here. Say OK, and you can see I have my footnote style here. So when I want to apply this new footnote style, all I do is I put my mouse cursor somewhere. I just say footnote endnote. And I'm not saying insert footnote now. I'm saying insert custom footnote endnote. And now I'm getting a dialog here asking me which one, my footnote style. Let's ignore numbering for now. And I say OK. And you can now see that I've inserted my own one. Also, what you can see is my, let's put something in, C Apple for details. So what you can also see is my numbering has restarted. So if you want to have different numbering for footnotes, that's also possible by creating your own footnote style. Of course, when you want to put something in, you can also use this little button here in the footnote style palette and choose your own footnote style and say OK. And now you can see I will have my own one here again, right? And it goes in the order of the reference here. That's why I have 1, 4, 2. Maybe something that you wouldn't do, but I'm sure there is enough documentation, enough books out there, requirements that need this kind of stuff. So if you want to have the same numbering, then just use the same footnote style. Okay, so what else? There is a distance in here. You can see that between the 2 footnotes here. How do I make this distance larger or smaller? I think this is easy. You just go to your formatting, your paragraph formatting, and then you use the space before or space after. So if you want to have more, right, you just put maybe 2 millimeters in here, or 3 millimeters, or 4 millimeters, and you can see now how the distance changes here, 1 millimeter. But how do I remove the distance altogether? If I put 0 in here, then you can see that it's larger actually than 1. That means that it should really be listed auto and not 0 millimeters or inches. So if you want to have no distance in here, just put a very small amount in here, so 0.001 or something like that, and then you can see that now it actually moves together. Maybe not what I expected here, maybe I want 1 millimeter, but that's the way of removing this distance between the two footnotes. Numbering, that's the next thing we want to look at. Let's go to a footnote that has the same footnote style here. You can see it says 5 and 6, right? And the whole numbering scheme for my footnote style is actually for the whole text box, for the whole text chain. So I get 5 and 6 here. What if I don't want that? Well, then I just edit my footnote style. These are my default footnote styles. So I say edit, and I can say restart numbering on each page. So I can say OK, and now you can see that this has changed. So it will pick up the first footnote in my footnote style, start that with 1, and then continue numbering. So on each page I have 1, 2, 3 now, 1, 2, 3, and so on. If I don't want that, if I want to change that back, let's just edit my default footnote style. I say never, then you can see that this is one numbering for the whole text story. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. Always within the same footnote style, of course. What if I don't like the Arabic numbers here? I want Roman numbers or stuff like that. Well, in my footnote style, there was different formatting. So I can change my paragraph styles if I want all of my footnotes also to use that courier. I can change that here. My marker, this is where my reference is. I can superscript or subscript or inherit from a numbering style. That's my numbering style here. So I can also change my default numbering style and say where I should change. So if I say OK here, you will see that nothing has changed. For that, I need to go into my numbering style, bullets numbering and style, my default numbering style. I need to edit that. So if I don't want these to be Arabic numbers, I want these to be small Roman numbers. Say OK and save. Now you can see I have the Roman 5 and the Roman 6 here. I shouldn't look for it. I should, of course, use my shortcut key I just showed you, or my shortcut contextual menu, return to reference. You can see that this has also changed. So what if I now want to have some text that is in a separate text box being anchored in my main text, right? It's easy to do. I just cut this, right? And then I put my text cursor where I want it, maybe here, do an extra paragraph, and I paste this in here. And now this, as you know, this text box is anchored and will float with the main text. What happens if I put a footnote into an anchored box? Let's try that. Maybe I want to do this for Windows, right? And I want to add a footnote for Windows. And I say footnote, insert footnote, and you can see now that though I'm adding the footnote to the inner, to the anchored text box, the footnote, of course, is still where I expect it to be in the main text box. So I can say see Microsoft.com, right, in here. And of course, this is only available as long as this box is in here. So if I going to cut this box out, you can see that also the text box takes its footnote with it. So I won't see it anymore. And if I paste it here again, I have the text box with its own footnote. How do I remove footnotes actually? Well, this is easy. I just delete the reference, and you can see, let's do that again, undo, typing, so I delete it, and you can see when I delete the reference, also the footnote is being deleted. This is great if I just want to delete one. If I want to delete all, what I will do is I will search for the \O
and can change to nothing. This is a placeholder for any kind of footnote. So I'm going to search for this and change it to nothing. I'll find the first one, I'll change all, and you can see that actually all my footnotes have been removed now. If I don't want to do that, I can't undo that, so be careful when you try this feature here. Okay, so I think this is everything I wanted to show you today about footnotes and endnotes. I hope this has helped you, and I'm sure you have more questions about footnotes and endnotes, especially when you start working with it. So visit us at our forums at forums.quark.com and ask there, or go to our new Facebook group at facebook.com/group/QuarkExpress, where we have around 900 people right now discussing features of QuarkExpress, and of course the QuarkExpress team is also there to help. That leaves me to thank you for your time today. As I said, you can also leave comments in the comment field on YouTube, and we'll answer them as quickly as possible. And we hope to see you next time when we talk about color management. Thank you.